It is said that the art of writing originated in the Babylonian civilization. It is in those ancient times that great libraries came into being. They were built to store the written works that began by carving characters on clay tablets. According to records, after the clay tablets, various forms of reeds and hides of animals came to be used as writing material. A new page in the history of writing was turned with the discovery of paper. Libraries were constructed to store those writings. Such libraries belong to several categories. Public libraries, academic libraries, subject-related libraries, and national libraries are among those categories. In the national libraries of countries, at least one copy of the publications of that country is kept preserved. When we trace the history of libraries of Sri Lanka, we find evidence of the existence of libraries dating back to the kingdom of Polonnaruwa. It has been archaeologically established that the remains of the Potkul Viharya in Polonnaruwa indicate that it was a library constructed to preserve the written works of Sri Lanka. The initial steps towards the establishment of the National Library of Sri Lanka were taken in the 1950s. The National Library Services Board was established by Parliamentary Act No. 17 of 1970. By implementing this act, the National Library Services Board was implemented, and the Library Development Project was implemented on the 27th of April 1990.
පොතපත අවශ්‍යයි අපේ දැනීම වැඩි දියුණු කරගන්න.
At the opening of the National Library Services Board, former President Ranasinghe Premadasa highlighted the need for books. Books are essential to develop our knowledge, but we must not get intoxicated with that
අපේ
knowledge.
මොළය පුරවගෙන ඒ දැනුම උඩ ඉඳගෙන අපි නොඑක් විෂයන් ගැන හිතන්ට ගියොත් අපි ඒ දැනුමට වහල් වෙනවා.
Any citizen of Sri Lanka can obtain membership at the Sri Lanka National Library.
පාර්ලිමේන්තු වරදකින් ස්ථාපිත මෙම ජාතික පුස්තකාලයේ තියෙන ග්‍රන්ථ
This National Library is established by an Act of Parliament.
කිසියම් පොතක් ගැහුවොත්
In this National Library, there are about 600,000 very rare books.
දිනපතා සංවර්ධනය වෙමින් පවතී.
Sri Lanka National Library has several divisions and collections. Review, state publication, newspaper, legal deposit, audiovisual, rare publications, and the collection of postgraduate dissertations are the foremost among those collections. In addition, a whole series of other projects are also being implemented. Among these are the production of Sri Lanka National Bibliography, conducting of national documentary services, providing resources for libraries, training librarians, conducting programs for the promotion of reading, holding book exhibitions, and assisting book publications.
ලංකාවේ 1884 පැනවුණ නීතියක්
A regulation was promulgated in terms of the Books and Newspapers Act of 1884. According to this, it is imperative that several copies of all the books published in Sri Lanka should be kept preserved in institutions named by the government. One such institution is the National Museum Library, and the other is the National Archives Library. Those days, it was essential that copies should be sent to the Library of the British Museum as well. The National Library mainly contains works written by Sri Lankans about Sri Lanka, books written by Sri Lankans about other countries, and works produced by foreigners about Sri Lanka.
ජාතික පුස්තකාලය කියන එක රටක ආරම්භ කරනකොට
When any country initiates the establishment of a national library, there are some primary goals and aims. One is the protection and safeguarding of the national literary heritage, and to enable both the present generation and the future generations to make use of that valued heritage.
ලෝකේ හැම රටකම වගේ ලෝකේ හැම රටකම වගේ
This concept of the National Library is common to almost all the countries in the world.
කරේ
Even the UNESCO emphasized that the primary aim of a national library is the collection, preservation, and the protection of a given nation's literary heritage. The Writer Assistance Program is a project that is being conducted by the National Library and Documentation Services Board to provide incentives to writers and to look after their well-being.
ඇත්තටම පුස්තකාල හා ප්‍රලේඛන සේවා මණ්ඩලය විසින් මේ කරන
This Writer Assistance Service provided by the National Library and Documentation Services Board is decidedly a tremendous aid both to experienced writers and to amateur authors alike.
උපකාරයක් වෙනවා.
These officials guide the amateur writers, indicating to them the way a book has to be published.
කියලා දීලා පොතක් කරන විදිය පෙන්නලා උපදෙස් දීලා ඒගොල්ලන්ව ඒ යොමු කරනවා පොත මුද්‍රණය කරන්න.
Martin Wickramasinghe is reputed both locally and globally as a writer as well as an outstanding thinker. Many are the books, tomes and publications he himself produced and he made use of during his lifetime. Those who visit the National Library and Documentation Services Board premises will be able to see the works he intimately made use of.
ප්‍රකාශක වශයෙන් අපිට තිබුණ
As publishers, we did not have an approved standard. We printed in various ways. That standard came into being through the methodology of the National Library Services Board. Among the material one comes upon at the National Library, one will find braille documents and Ola leaf books.
පුස්තකාල සේවා මණ්ඩලය ආරම්භ වූ මුල්ලවදීදී ලංකාවේ විශිෂ්ටම සහ ප්‍රශස්තම ලේඛකයින්ගේ කෘති
In the early days of the National Library Services Board, the works of some of the most outstanding writers in Sri Lanka were printed under the patronage of the Library Services Board.
මහත්මයා ඒ වගේම
Writers of the caliber of Mr. K. Jayatilaka, Professor A. V. Suravira, and Mr. Somavira Senanayaka gave this publishing program an effective start.
හොඳ ප්‍රවේශයක්.
ලේඛකයෙකුට පොතක් පළ කර ගැනීමට අවස්ථාව දෙනකොට
When a writer is given the opportunity to publish a book, generally on many an occasion, that writer gets his book published through a publisher. This way, the publisher brings out a book that has been approved by a national level institution like this. This way, the publishers are also pleased to publish a book that has been approved by the National Library Services Board and has been provided assistance.
මෙවැනි පුස්තකාලයක් වෙන නැහැ. දැන් මේ පුස්තකාලයට පැවිදි
There is no other library like this. The responsibilities assigned to this library are the promotion of the reading habit and helping the growth of knowledge.
අතහිත දීම කියන ප්‍රධාන මාතෘකාවට තමයි මේ මණ්ඩලය පිහිටවලා තියෙන්නේ.
The Sri Lanka National Library, which is of tremendous national importance, is 25 years now. The National Library Services Board and Documentation Centre is ready and prepared to perform a national service through the literary art and many other activities associated with it.